Hello, I'm Stephen Watts. I'm going to tell you about the time I bought my first motorcycle. It started out when everyone in my family had a Harley. My grandpa, my uncle, even my dad had a Harley. And in the summertime, they would go riding, and I was the only guy left back. And finally, I graduated high school. I came into some money working for Menards, my very first job. And I finally had enough money through that and graduation money that I could finally make a major purchase for a motorcycle. I finally could legally ride a motorcycle. I went through the classes. I had the money, and I was 18. I was ready to go. And I've always wanted a Harley because I kind of grew up in a Harley family. And I was looking on Craigslist for quite some time when I found a 1997 red Harley 1200 Sportster. And I got a hold of the guy. The guy was it sounded pretty nice to me, and we ended up setting a date to meet. And we had to drive, me, my grandpa, and my dad, we decided to drive to Glassford to meet this guy so we could check out the bike. We met at a county market parking lot. And when you pulled up, this was one of the loudest bikes I've ever heard in my life. It was awesome. And the guy, he was definitely a character. He was covered in tattoos. He was skinny. And he even admitted to us that he loved alcohol for some reason. So we got to talking, and my grandpa finally went on a ride because I was definitely never rode on public roads before, so I was kind of nervous to take a bike out for the first time. So I had my grandpa ride it. And he said it would have been a good purchase. The only thing is there was a little squeaking from the front axle. So, we thanked the guy, and I ended up shooting him a text later on with an offer. I shot him an offer around $2,500, which was $500 off his original price on Craigslist. And I basically said to him, with that front axle, there was a squeaking. I'm going to have to pay to get that fixed. So we kind of went back and forth, and then we finally agreed on $2,600, which was a good deal for this bike. And we planned to meet a few days later at this very same place. And so me and my grandpa on that day, we drove all the way back to Glassford, and it turns out he didn't even show up. We were there for maybe 40 minutes. And we just said, you know what, we'll just ride back to Pekin. So we drove all the way back to Pekin. And maybe a few hours later, he sent me a text. He kept apologizing to me. And that's basically all he did. He just kept apologizing. I said, you know what? We did waste quite a bit of time coming to see you, and you didn't show up. So why don't you come to Pekin, and we'll make the deal then. So I met with him the next day, and it was quite interesting because no one was available to ride the bike home for me. So worst came to worst, I called my friend up, and I called him to drive my car home while I rode the bike for the very first time. And I kind of had to man up on the inside and ride the bike home. Never rode on public roads before, and the bike was a lot more powerful than the bike I rode in my motorcycle class. And the worst part about it, I had to go down Court Street, which is Pekin's busiest street. So it was kind of nerve-wracking for me. A first-time rider on a busy street and a powerful bike. Well, the guy finally pulled up with the bike. I shook his hand. He apologized again. We made the trade. And I started up the engine, rode around a little bit. My emotions were crazy. I was super nervous. My adrenaline was pumping for being on the bike for the very first time. And kind of rode around a few more times, got used to it. And I decided to take it out on Court Street, which is a pretty busy street if you don't know Pekin. I rode very cautiously because it was my very first time. Looking at my surroundings the whole time. And then once I kind of got out of heavy traffic, I revved it up as maybe 15 miles per hour above the speed limit just to see how much power it really had. And it was awesome. It's definitely going to be a memory I'm going to have for quite some time. Uh, and to this day, I still have my bike and I enjoy riding it, especially if it's good weather. Thank you.